What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down what's really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So NIO is up 2.16%, looking pretty good in a sea of red today. 493 the low, 501 the high. So back to that $5 range. Unfortunately, didn't really last all too long. It kind of bounced off of that. So I'll go over a lot of the attributing factors to that. But you're seeing relatively good volume. So 11.8 million shares being traded, 69 is the average. There is a couple of things that's causing all of this hype. One is, of course, piggybacking off of Xpeng's earnings. That's typically what does happen. Whatever happens to one, usually it's relatable to the others. Of course, in NIO's case, their earnings has not been announced. Looking historically, you can kind of see it was in the first week of September, last week of August. So that's kind of a benchmark. 2022 similarly was first week of September. So it's going to be one of the two most likely. Once we get closer to that date, I'll do a little bit more of a deeper dive. But even looking here, the current implied move that's encumbering their earnings, estimating looks like September the 4th as their earnings date. There's almost an 11% move. So definitely a lot of volatility is anticipated, but nonetheless, you're also seeing a lot of kind of hype because of what they announced yesterday, expanding to these 3 regions. And I brought this up in my video yesterday, and I do tend to agree with a lot of the comments that this isn't the best because a lot of these areas are relatively, I guess, poor, and they don't really have a good infrastructure essentially. But nonetheless, though, I think a lot of people are very hyped up about Costa Rica. So they're kind of getting closer and closer to the state. So I think a lot of people are maybe just being very optimistic that it's just a matter of time potentially. Of course, I think there has to be a lot of other changes in the states, but nonetheless, a lot of people seem to be hyped up about this. Aside from that, though, we also did get the weekly registration numbers. So as a group, 7,190, 880 associated to Firefly. So that's a pretty good improvement from last week, which was 684. You had NIO 2520, good improvement from that 2162, which was very low last week. And then 3790 for Onvo, which is similarly a nice improvement from the 3243. Still, I feel like it could be a little bit better, but week over week improvements definitely very much there. So I'm a little bit more satisfied with this. So all of that is attributing to NIO really moving higher. There really isn't any macro data points. This evening we do have kind of the 1 year and also 5 prime rate that's going to be announced. FTI that's going to be coming out, I think it is Friday evening, so that could potentially impact, or at least the loan tomorrow, and then this will be the following week. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's really influencing NIO. No news, no SEC filings or anything like that. When it comes down to shorts that are increasing, 494,000 shares, so not really doing all that much in all honesty. 12.19% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 188.03 million shares overall are being shorted. As I mentioned in my video yesterday, shorts have been returning a lot over the last 2 weeks, and a lot of that has to do with this. So the DTC is at 3.8 days. So that factors in NIO's average volume in comparison to number of shares being shorted. So kind of shows and somewhat paints a picture that shorts are just overextended. So most likely that's why shorts have been returning a little bit. So let me know your viewpoint on that. But aside from that, moving over to the options, 682,000 in calls, 161,000 in puts, and then 56% of all the options being done are bullish in nature. So definitely good to see, and that's been something that's been more of a common occurrence with NIO over the last couple trading days, is a lot of bullish options. So again, definitely good to see, and does show that big money sees a lot more upside. From the bull standpoint, there's a consensus for it to be above that 5 to 550 for the most part, and then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub kind of 450 to the 5. So definitely a little bit more upside. Yesterday there was a lot more optimism, and that is because of this. So I think a lot of people had very, very high expectations for the weekly registration numbers. And on a side note, this is the breakdown for Onvo. I know this is also another kind of a big deal. So 23.30 for L90, and then 14.60 for the L60. So again, a very nice improvement, I guess. Still rather on the low end, but still nonetheless pretty good. Aside from that, these are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So you see one buy right here for $224,000, and that was done pretty much right after the market did open. And then the other ones are all sales, unfortunately. So algorithmic trading is really helping NIO kind of move higher, but these are all the transactions occurring so far on the dark pool. And dark pool is often enough used by hedge funds as well as shorts. Now, there was one very big transaction that occurred after hours yesterday, a 2.1 million share transaction, works out to be $10.3 million. So potentially big money somehow knew that things were going to really move higher, possibly. So again, this is why I like to look at a lot of the data. Kind of signals what big money is feeling is coming. Of course, I don't think anyone has truly a crystal ball and knows exactly what is coming, but at least if you kind of piece a lot of the signals and data points together, kind of paints again a little bit of a good picture. Right now with it at 497, it is exactly on this R1. So today is going to be a big day for that, whether it closes above or below that. So if it does and is able to get above and stay there, 512 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. Flip side, 473 is going to be the next strong support, and that hasn't really been touched over the last several trading days. So I think NIO is just really ready to kind of move higher to the next leg up, back to that $5 range. But obviously in the past, it did bounce off of this R2, kind of struggled with that last time around. So that's going to be a key one to watch for. No new analyst ratings, no articles really coming out associated to NIO. On the actual chart though, things are looking pretty good. Above the ALMA, show some signs that it wants to really move higher. Already above all the key moving averages that generally I like to look at, which is the 50, 100, and 200. Stochastic RSI is breaking off of the oversold status. So someone getting to the neutral, nothing really wrong with that or anything, but of course that does mean that if it gets to, probably I would estimate around that 550, and there's some negative news that does come out, this is where you could see some consolidation as a kind of byproduct of that. So let me know your thoughts on NIO in the comments below. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What do you feel for NIO's upcoming earnings? Do you think this is going to be the next big catalyst for it? I guess it all depends on timing, of course. So potentially August's numbers could be another good catalyst, but it all depends on when they actually put out their earnings, whether it be the last week of August or potentially first week of September. So let me know your thoughts on NIO. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.